everyone. If you're watching this video, then you are part of the TTOR army, an army that is building itself up one subscriber at a time. As you can see from the title and thumbnail of today's video, today we're going to be talking about Nick Fuentes and how he recently came out as a Democrat. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Nick Fuentes is a leftist Democrat. But before we get into the details of that, if you haven't already, be sure to check me out on the platforms over there. Follow me on Creation Social, which is my own Twitter alternative that I run and founded. Follow me on Spotify. Subscribe to me on BitChute. Subscribe to me on Rumble. Follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter. Follow me on all the places. Subscribe to me on all the places, and let's just grow the TTOR army. Now that you know about that, let's get into the subject matter of today's video. Now, to me, it's not surprising that Nick Fuentes recently came out as a Democrat, because for years now, the last several years, Nick Fuentes has been behaving like a leftist Democrat. Now, when Nick Fuentes first came onto the scene in like 2018, 2019, somewhere around there, he was portraying himself as a conservative Christian who was all about freedom of speech, and he was against censorship, and he was banned from all these platforms like so many others were. And Andrew Torba was tooting Nick Fuentes' horn and claiming that Nick Fuentes represented the future of Christians in terms of what the next generation of Christians would be like, and he was going to be one of the leaders of that generation. Well, it wasn't that long after Andrew Torba penned that all the weird stuff started coming out, such as this video I did 4 years ago where we talked about how Nick Fuentes advocated for censoring his critics on the internet, a topic I discuss in detail in a video titled Nick Fuentes Comes Out of the Closet as a Censorship-Loving Authoritarian. So Nick Fuentes is pro-censorship of critics on social media. Then I did a video a little bit later called Jaden McNeil Exposes Nick Fuentes for the censorious lying grifter he is. So not only is Nick Fuentes pro-censorship, but he's also a lying grifter, which you can see this video in the description box below if you would like to get more details on that. Then there was the time where Nick Fuentes promoted grooming children in schools. Yep, I kid you not. Link to this video will be in the description box below. But Nick Fuentes didn't just argue that, he also argued that they should lower the age of consent. Just like a typical woke leftist Democrat, right? And then in 2024, not long before the 2024 election, Nick Fuentes went on his show and called Donald Trump a grave threat to America, a grave threat to the country, which up until the point where Donald Trump's first assassination attempt occurred, Democrats had been saying for years that Donald Trump is a threat to the country and he's a threat to democracy and he must be stopped at all costs. And then someone actually did try to assassinate Donald Trump, and that's the one where the bullet missed him by this much. And Donald Trump survived with some blood on his face and his ear, and he did the classic fight, fight, fight thing that's become an immortal meme for time and eternity. Donald Trump handled being fired at very well. And what does Nick Fuentes do after that assassination attempt? He goes on his show and he literally repeats the rhetoric that incited the violence against Donald Trump. He literally repeats the rhetoric that led to that first assassination attempt. So Nick Fuentes literally incited violence against Donald Trump by calling him a grave threat to the country, just like all the Democrats have been doing for years. And after Nick Fuentes has done all of this, it came as no surprise when Laura Loomer recently recorded this on Twitter. She said, "The psyop of Nick Fuentes is now complete. In case you were wondering why the New York Times has been glorifying him, and he has bought it on social media according to Elon Musk, and why he was never arrested over J6 when people who did far less were, he is a Democrat, and just admitted to being a moderate Democrat on his show. If this is what the moderate Democrats look like, imagine how much worse the woke and radical left Democrats are. His sole litmus test is hating Israel. It's been obvious for a while Nick made a deal with the Democrats. Now we can all see it. And in case you think she's just blowing smoke, well, let's listen to him.
I care about affordability. I care about foreign interventions. I care about the border. I'm a non-woke moderate Democrat. I think the GOP needs to be destroyed. I think the corrupt criminal government of Trump needs to be slowed down. We need to impeach the orange. It's time to put this peach. Trump needs to be placed inside of a crystal. He needs to be impeached. This fat orange, tiny hands needs to be impeached. And then in 28, no Vance, no Rubio. We have to burn down the whole party.
So, as we saw in that clip, Nick Fuentes literally identified himself as a Democrat. Now, he claims to be a non-woke moderate Democrat, but I think anyone who comes out as being a censorship lover who loves to censor his critics and who's a lying grifter and who promotes grooming in schools and lowering the age of consent and who literally incites violence against our current sitting president, I don't think such a person is non-woke or a moderate Democrat. I think he's just a plain old woke leftist Democrat pretending to be moderate. But what makes this whole thing ironic is that I personally have seen people on the internet who think that Nick Fuentes is a Trump supporter and a conservative, and that basically he's the poster child of everything that the woke lefties hate about conservatives and Trump supporters and Christians. But now we know that Nick Fuentes is none of those things. He is a Democrat according to his own admission. He is, in practice, a woke leftist Democrat. He calls himself a non-woke moderate Democrat, but in practice he is a woke leftist Democrat. He hits all the markers. He checks off all the boxes. But you know what's interesting about this transformation of Nick Fuentes from being the poster child of the far right / woke right to now being an open Democrat? This is not the first time this has happened. Some of you might remember Richard B. Spencer, who before Nick Fuentes was the poster child of the alt-right, woke right movement. Richard Spencer was that person. And how did Richard Spencer end up? Well, Richard Spencer ended up endorsing Joe Biden for president in 2020, and he ended up endorsing Kamala Harris for president in 2024, just like Nick Fuentes did. So Nick Fuentes is following the exact same story arc as Richard Spencer. Starts out as a alt-right, woke right person claiming to be conservative. Nick Fuentes took it an extra step and claimed to be some kind of Christian / Catholic, and yet by the end, both of them come out as being Democrats, advocating for the Democrat presidential candidates to be elected in their elections. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I think we can conclusively agree that Nick Fuentes has come out and admitted that he is a Democrat, which means every Democrat and leftist who thinks that Nick Fuentes is a conservative Christian Trump supporter, well, you guys are so wrong. Nick Fuentes is one of you. He believes the same things you believe. He identifies as a Democrat. And all of you people on the woke right who claim to be against all the things that the Democrats and the woke leftists are doing, you should be casting Nick Fuentes off into the wilderness. He should have no part of our movement going forward. And by our movement, I mean the general conservative Christian movement. But if you're part of the woke right movement, you especially need to jettison Nick Fuentes from every facet of your life that he is present in terms of your viewing entertainment. And the reason why I am saying this is because Nick Fuentes no longer represents you. He is now a Democrat. Then again, the woke left and the woke right are pretty identical to each other for the most part, so maybe they'll just transition to being Nick Fuentes fans and they'll alter their opinions from being slightly conservative to being slightly leftist or woke leftist. Who knows? I mean, who knows with these people? A lot of these people who follow Nick Fuentes, I think, are operating on an IQ under 70, just to be honest. But with that, I bid you guys adieu and farewell, and I will see you in the next video. Ta-ta for now.